What circumstances led to the untimely death of Omar Murray, a successful businessman and beloved family man who had so much life yet to live? Let's unravel the chilling layers of a true crime story that is as heart-wrenching as it is spine-chilling. Omar Murray was not just a prosperous real estate entrepreneur, but also a loving father of two and an adored husband. He was known for his philanthropy and his ceaseless dedication to uplift his local community. His life, brimming with promise and kindness, was abruptly cut short on a piercingly cold February day in 2013. That morning, the Brooklyn neighborhood was shrouded in an unusually heavy fog, the bare trees dusted with a light coating of frost. It was under this grim skyscape that tragedy struck the Murray household. Omar was shot 3 times at his residence in broad daylight. Omar's wife, Alicia Noel Murray, came upon the horrifying sight of her husband lifeless in their stately Brooklyn home, falling victim to what initially seemed like a brutal home invasion. The normally vibrant neighborhood was plunged into silence as shock and disbelief gripped its inhabitants. The community, close-knit and peaceful, grappled with the idea that such a heinous crime could strike so close to home. As detectives delved deeper into this unsettling mystery, they discovered a story not just of random violence, but of calculated deceit and cold-blooded murder. The narrative that unfolded was far removed from the tranquility that characterized Omar Murray's life and the peaceful morning on which he was brutally taken from those who loved him. The investigation kicked off without delay, the crime scene teeming with the methodical hum of detectives at work. The scene was a murky canvas of chaos, untouched since the crime took place. The untouched furniture, the blemish of conflict on the walls, and the eerie silence that hung in the air created an unsettling tapestry of events yet to be deciphered. Finally, a breakthrough came when they discovered a surveillance video from a nearby store. The grainy footage showed a figure lurking in the shadows, wearing a disguise. This was the first glimmer of hope in this convoluted case. As they analyzed the video frame by frame, they noticed a distinct tattoo on the figure's forearm. It was a crucial clue that would eventually lead them to the unthinkable truth. Months of tireless investigation led the detectives to a known criminal, Ricardo Chavez. In a shocking twist, they discovered that Omar's murder was not a random act of violence, but a targeted hit. Chavez said he had been hired by a powerful criminal organization to silence Omar, who had unknowingly stumbled upon their illicit activities. With the evidence mounting, the detectives worked tirelessly to bring Chavez to justice. They meticulously built their case, connecting the dots that would lead them to the mastermind behind the murder. The team of detectives, led by the seasoned and relentless Detective Harper, worked like clockwork, dissecting the chaos with careful precision. They scoured every corner, every possible surface, marking and cataloging the smallest details. Detective Harper, a veteran with 2 decades of experience, was known for his meticulousness and keen eye for detail, which were invaluable during investigations like these. Their hard work began to bear fruit when they uncovered a crucial piece of evidence that turned the tide, an area suspiciously clean amidst the disarray. This anomaly suggested the concerted effort of a cleanup, insinuating that the crime was not a random act of violence, but a thought-out, premeditated act. The community grappled with a growing sense of fear and disbelief. This was a close-knit neighborhood, where people knew their neighbors and crime was but a distant urban tale. The shockwaves of the crime reverberated through their once peaceful existence, causing them to lock their doors a little tighter and look over their shoulders with unease. The town's tranquility had been shattered, and the ripple effects of the crime would be felt for a long time to come. As the seasoned detectives started to methodically assemble the chaotic puzzle, they found themselves increasingly entangled in a complex weave of deception, masterfully spun by none other than Alicia Noel Murray herself. Despite her initial flood of tears and vehement proclamations of innocence, the cracks in her pretense began to grow, and multiple inconsistencies in her story became glaringly obvious. Her alibi, a supposedly innocent shopping trip, quickly crumbled under the intense scrutiny of law enforcement. Surveillance footage from local stores and shopping centers yielded no trace of her presence at the time she claimed to have been shopping, completely failing to substantiate her claims. Moreover, a detailed look into her credit card activity revealed no purchases that would lend credibility to her alibi. There were no receipts, no records, nothing that could even remotely support her version of events. In addition to these inconsistencies, Alicia's demeanor raised several red flags. Her lack of affect, her eerily calm composure so soon after the gruesome death of her husband, was unsettling. Her interactions with the police, void of any tangible grief or shock, gave them pause. Her stoic demeanor seemed out of place for a grieving widow, making them question the authenticity of her emotional display. Furthermore, the community's perception of Alicia began to shift noticeably. The once sympathetic neighbors started to harbor suspicion and doubt. Whispers of her possible involvement in the crime began to circulate, adding another layer of complexity to the investigation. The collective gaze of the community was fixed on Alicia, and with every passing day, she found herself sinking deeper into a quagmire of her own making. Alicia's financial standings were far from stable. Struggling under the immense weight of credit cards, debts, unpaid bills, and a mortgage, she was teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. The detectives unearthed this grim reality while delving deeper into her personal life. Simultaneously, she was embroiled in a passionate extramarital affair with a man named Damian Lovell. Her betrayal was not just a blunt blow to her marital vows, but a dangerous game that she was playing, further deepening her desperation. This desperation was further exemplified when they discovered a recent transaction. Alicia had taken out a substantial life insurance policy on her husband. This didn't sit well with the detectives. It painted a portrait of a woman drowning in financial woe and emotional turmoil, looking for a lifeline. As the detectives pieced together the puzzle, their suspicion intensified. The final breakthrough came when they traced a thread of phone calls between Alicia and her lover, Damian Lovell. These calls, synchronized with the timing of the murder, hinted towards a conspiracy. Under intense scrutiny, Lovell could not hold his ground. He confessed to his participation in the vile act, putting Alicia in the spotlight as the puppeteer. The detectives saw the whole picture now, one of tragedy and deception, masterminded by a woman who was desperate to escape her reality. It was Damian Lovell, Alicia's married lover, who contacted a hitman named Porteous to carry out the hit. The courtroom was a whirlwind of tension, a somber arena where justice was to be served. It was brimming with key players: the stern-faced judge, who was the very embodiment of impartiality; the unyielding prosecutors, whose arguments were as solid as granite; the defense counsel that looked but a tad defeated; and of course, Alicia Noel Murray, the defendant herself, whose fate hung in the balance. The key witness, Lovell's testimony, was nothing short of a damning exposé. His words were a chilling account of the gruesome crime, filled with details that left the courtroom in hushed silence. Not just his words, but his demeanor, his regret, his fear. They all painted a dark picture that was hard to ignore. He said Alicia needed her husband dead to be able to cash in on 3 separate life insurance policies, so they planned together how it could be achieved. As for evidence, the prosecution presented a veritable mountain of it against Alicia. Cold, incontrovertible facts that were pieced together to form a narrative impossible to refute. From the forensic findings to the financial records pointing towards Alicia's insurance fraud motivation, it was all too damning and all too real. The verdict was swift as the collective gasp that filled the courtroom when the judge declared Alicia Noel Murray guilty of first-degree murder. The sentence followed: life imprisonment without parole for orchestrating the murder of her husband. A sentence that was met with a mix of shock and satisfaction. The community, once a haven of peace, was left shaken by the events. The reactions varied, from relief that justice was served, to shock at the severity of the sentence, to the sobering realization of the darkness that had unfolded in their midst. The trial, the verdict, its aftermath, they all served as a stark reminder that even in the quietest communities, one is never too far from the reach of crime and its consequences. The tragic course of Omar Murray's life serves as a forceful reminder that the monsters we fear don't always lurk in the hushed corners of our nightmares. Sometimes, these monsters can be found in our circle of trust. They are the individuals we allow into our personal spaces, our hearts, and our homes. This chilling narrative of Omar Murray's case is a testament to the terrifying depths of human deception and the ferocious wrath of desperation. Yet the ramifications of this case far beyond the solemn confines of a courtroom. They sound a harsh warning bell about the perils of unchecked avarice and the dire fallout of shattered trust. This case has left an indelible imprint on the community, forcing it to grapple with the uncomfortable truths of betrayal and the potentially devastating outcomes of unchecked ambition. On a larger scale, it has instigated a profound discourse on the implications of such cases. It raises poignant questions about the very nature of justice and the immense consequences of breaching trust. It stirs a broader dialogue on the societal norms and morality that govern our collective conscience. As we step into the murky realms of true stories, it is imperative we retain the valuable lessons they impart. These stories shed light on the multifaceted aspects of the human condition. They underscore the delicate balance between love and tragedy, between trust and betrayal. They emphasize the ceaseless pursuit of justice, irrespective of the odds. Ultimately, they serve as a stark reminder of the inherent goodness that can triumph even in the face of the most formidable evils.